So this is Jim Cashel, and I'm now at the end of the event with Harold Luft, who is currently the director of the Palo Alto Medical Foundation Research Institute. And Harold, you just led a panel entitled Reform in the Public. What were some of the key points that you and panelists were making about the health reform process?
Part of what we're trying to focus on was to bring some of the issues down, looking at the different publics involved in the process, and also taking account of the fact that we are in California, funded by a California foundation, wanting to think about those issues. There are issues around diversity in terms of some states have huge immigrant populations, many do not. That raises issues of legality. Are we talking about health care for everybody in the U.S., for legal immigrants only, in which case who's providing coverage for the people who are mowing the lawns. And then also when one talks about immigrants, you have this huge diversity of cultures, languages, etc., that need to be thought about. It's not just providing coverage, but making sure people get the coverage in places where they're comfortable getting it.
So a lot of the issues you're talking about are state issues, regional issues. Most of the health reform debate right now is around federal policy. How should the sort of federal health reform activities be factoring in? They only have purview over federal policies, right, not state and local.
And so one hopes that as they get to the level of real legislation, working out in committees, making it real, they'll be hearing, for example, from the National Government Association. They'll be hearing from various other groups that say, but how is this going to work for me in my area?
Right.
It could work in New York, but what about Montana? It could work in Los Angeles, but what about in the Central Valley? So those are issues, and I think that the federal government, because we are a federal government rather than a national unitary government, will leave some discretion at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is how much is left permissive. Sometimes it's done the other way, they just push things and problems down to the states. But I think there'll be a certain degree of permissiveness.
So I was struck that many of the presentations, in fact, probably all of them, talked about taxes and the need for different tax vehicles, or John Chauvin spoke about either value-added tax or direct tax for healthcare, but that raises huge political obstacles. What are your thoughts about the way that tax reform enters into this debate?
Well, everybody wants it all, and no one wants their taxes increased.
Exactly.
I think Chauvin's comments about the value-added tax, he got the political notion that the states are very reliant on sales tax. That's why you can't add another sales tax to it. But passing a new tax, while from my perspective now, provides the budgetary discipline that you might like, that's also the reason why it's unlikely to pass. Mm-hmm. Because the public doesn't want their taxes increased, and the providers who might benefit by having more people covered are going to say, why should I focus on that reform that's going to be constrained? Let me get on the gravy train where it's unconstrained, where it's general revenue or something else.
Exactly.
So I think we need to think through all of those issues, and to some extent there was some disjunction going on during the meeting between reforming the delivery system, making it more efficient, which is really all focusing on the cost side and to some extent the quality side, mm-hmm, versus expanding coverage to people who don't have it or who have inadequate coverage. Mm-hmm. If you don't reform the delivery system, then you have to increase taxes to cover the uninsured.
Right.
You can reform the delivery system and not care about the uninsured. That's probably the way some people might want to do it. But if you reform the delivery system and bring costs down, you can then afford to cover the uninsured. So a part of the discussion, and here I'm going beyond the panel, is in the reform debate in the Congress, you might find that the budget hawks and maybe some Republicans are willing to buy onto something that gets the delivery system reform. And they have to offer some equity provisions, maybe with increased taxes or something else, to bring on enough of the left
Mm.
who may not care nearly as much about delivery system reform but want universal coverage.
Mm.
So that may be the political debate that's hashed out in conference committee or something else.
Well, I've been struck that there's still a whole lot of question marks. I think just about every presentation ended with a question mark, and
Right.
that's just the nature of where we are at this point in the debate.
I think the exciting part is that we're asking the questions.
Oh, that's true too. Good, thank you.
Okay, thank
Good luck.
you.